Hello, everyone, and welcome to
our unnamed podcast.
Yes, we were the Cinema Syndicate, but now we are no longer the Cinema Syndicate because apparently there's another podcast called the Cinema Syndicate. So
we're working on names, but we're all here, so we're recording our podcast anyway.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's all here tonight?
We're here with Jacob. Me, who's Jamie.
Me, Etho, and
Anne.
She's new, kind of. She was here last time, but she didn't speak.
She didn't say anything.
Until the very end.
I don't know if we caught... Well...
I
don't remember either.
Anyway,
moving on. Tonight's movie topics are Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the 1937 version, created by Walt Disney Animation Studios. And then we are doing the Silly Symphony, The Old Mill, but also by Walt Disney Animation Studios. I don't recall the year on that one.
That is also 1937.
Okay.
I saw it, it came out the same year. So as always, we'll start with shorts. I think it's fun to do the short first because there's always a short in front of an animated movie. I like the idea for a podcast. Anyway, Jamie, why did you choose The Old Mill as our short?
So I chose The Old Mill for our short because I think it pairs very well with the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was also... Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first feature-length animated film to be released, having been made using a multiplane camera, which animation back then was very important to be using, and helped create a lot more depth in animation. And The Old Mill was kind of their test run of that multiplane camera before they actually released Snow White. So it adds a very interesting kind of preview to everything. It's also just one of my favorite Silly Symphonies in general. The way it's set up and the way the characterization is created.
Mm-hmm. So I felt very dumb watching Old Mill because I had a very obvious realization. So the movie this reminds me of a lot is Fantasia, and the more I was sitting with that, the more I realized, oh, Fantasia is just the most natural progression of the Silly Symphonies. I've never really connected those two together, honestly, until this one, with just, it has a little more of a somber tone than something like Goddess of Spring or like Babes in the Wood or any of those. And so I was really thinking, like, this would fit pretty well as like a Fantasia short. And then I realized, oh, Fantasia is kind of just Silly Symphonies, the movie.
Yeah.
And so I kind of came to that realization, and I think that kind of speaks to quality. Fantasia is great, and I think this being like something that I could see alongside it. I don't think the musical aspect is on par with Fantasia, but I think like the animation stuff is. So I really like that. Ethel, what do you think?
that's cute. I like the way that they used the music with the animation. I always liked that in the old Disney animated anything, where they all the beats are on with the animation with the music and stuff like that. I always liked that. My favorite was the frogs and the tonguing doves. I'm kidding.
Those doves were using a lot of film.
I'm sorry. I'm the comedy relief. You guys know more about things. I have to make things sort of fun.
I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at you.
You're gonna drop the mic on the floor.
No, I brought the mic a little too close to you for a second, and I was just like, oh.
We're all sharing one mic after about 30 minutes of trying to hook up a second mic. That did not work, so we will try to fix that audio quality in the future.
We'll get our audio quality fixed later.
Yeah.
We don't have very high-tech stuff going on here. So,
Anne, what do you think?
Yeah, Anne, what did you think?
And you took a bite of it,
We're
I
waiting.
liked Old Mill. I hadn't ever seen it before, but Fantasia has always been one of my favorites, and so Old Mill, it's kind of that same style. I did think they were gonna kill that cute little mama bird and her babies.
Yeah.
I thought she was done for. And it had a lot of drama and suspense for a little song short about animals in a rundown mill. It was very cute.
That's true.
So a note I want to bring up about the little duck being crushed by the windmill. I didn't realize this was a reference to this short until I watched it, but there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer's like trying to cheat like a rubber duck race, and they accidentally go into an old mill, and it's exactly the same model as the short here, and the duck goes and it gets unscathed because it has like the one hinge that doesn't go under, but Homer just gets absolutely crushed by the mill. So that's fun, but I do agree, like that scene is like genuinely very intense and suspenseful. They establish even after like they establish like she has kids in there, like she can't leave, and it just kind of hurts to watch.
Yeah, I like my favorite thing about the Old Mill. I think is just it's leaning more so to nature, versus like other silly symphonies. Like you have a lot of like there are a lot of nature elements in older silly symphonies as well, but like this one really really leans into that, and like I think they do a really good job with the characterization of all the animals and kind of like showing and portraying them in their habitat.
It feels very Bambi.
Yeah, like it's much closer to like more like like mid like 50s Disney, where they were doing more like Bambi-esque stuff, like more natural scenes and just more detailed animals and things like that, versus like the old silly symphony animals, which are all silly.
Yeah, no,
Cartoons.
They have a very realistic edge to the animals. I think there's a little bit of that going forward, but comparing like to the past, like I don't know, the grasshopper and the ants, where they're all like humanized and dancing and stuff like that. No, it's a nice change of pace to get one of these that's a little less silly.
Yeah. Do you guys have any?
I thought like the overarching, like I guess, meaning behind it is just like things are gonna be bad before they get better, kind of a thing, and I thought that was cute. But it's also kind of just about nature, and I don't really think there was that much of an underlying meaning, but that's what I got from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like things are, no matter how bad things are, like it will get better. It's kind of how I took it, but maybe that's not right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I thought of it like very much as like a kind of man versus nature, like absence of man. I think there's a lot of horror in this short, just by like we understand the mechanisms of like this man-made structure, but the animals don't understand it.
Yeah, they don't understand what's going on in the whole scheme of things. That just this is their place of home, and then it's a man-made thing that they live in, and then suddenly it starts decaying, and they're like, "Well, but why?" And it's like doesn't get to anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I think like as far as like animation wise, it's just very interesting. Like it's a very interesting piece, because you can kind of see where Disney was going into this more. I won't say like you can see where they're starting to part from the silly symphonies age.
It feels a lot more theatrical than the rest of the silly symphonies.
And you can tell that. So when Walt Disney created Snow White, not to go into Snow White first, but like it has to do with how the Old Mill was. Walt Disney basically created this specialized team of people from his select animators he already had and also brought in a few other new animators to work on Snow White, and so like you can kind of see those people also putting input into this film as well. And so like it's a very good precursor to to seeing, what Snow White's going to be like, kind of.
Yes, I think there was that technique you mentioned before where they have like the different frames. I think that's used very well. I think in like mostly establishing shots is where I see that used the most. I think like one of the things that kind of caught me off guard is like when the storm's like wrapping up, like we're quick cutting between all the different events, and that's just not something that was so jarring because I don't see that in any of the other shorts at the time. No, I think they're just definitely trying some more innovative stuff before they tackle the behemoth of like Snow White, Fantasia, and all the stuff from their golden age.
Yeah. I think one of like the most notable things is also like them using kind of this we talked about the like bird almost getting crushed like in the beginning, and it's like that's kind of like while Disney does use dark storytelling to kind of like drama dark storytelling to you know in while they have used it before in their silly symphonies, this one I think like really plays into it. Like it really wants you to get you into the film. Like it wants you to feel like you're there, and like they want to make you feel more, essentially, like be more invested into it.
And I think that's why I feel a lot of Fantasia in this.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Fantasia takes the ideas of this and kind of runs with it.
Yeah, and like I think that's so before Walt Disney created Snow White, like he kind of wanted to. A lot of people had doubts in Snow White. Actually, a lot of people told him, "No, don't make this film because it's gonna like people didn't think that people would." Sorry, I'm going rambling, but people didn't think that general audiences would have the attention span to actually watch Snow White because all they'd released before were these 11-minute shorts. Who's going to have the attention span for an hour and a half film? Mm-hmm. But Walt Disney said and slowly kind of pitched this idea to his studio where he was like, I think with good story writing and we with dark elements added, we can kind of draw people into this this longer story that people can follow.
Mm-hmm. Anna, throw anything to add?
I'm a little bit eepy.
That's
but
right.
I'm pushing through.
We are recording this late.
Yeah,
I'm pushing through.
We were delayed in watching the film together, and then we spent a ton of time watching.
It's okay. We had delicious curry. It's fine.
Yeah.
We'll get this right eventually.
Yep.
It's okay.
But
anyway.
Yeah, like I think this is a really good transitional film to show it's very pinnacle in showing the break from silly symphonies, as they were, to these more theatrical releases that came after their first feature-length film was released.
Mm-hmm. You want to jump into the main feature?
Yep, I think we can.
That was the first time I saw Snow White.
Oh,
technically, I remembered a lot of Snow White only because of that shitty Happily Ever After Snow White ripoff that probably came out to trick parents into thinking that was Snow White and not Snow White.
But it was I'm doing the quote fingers, a parody.
It's actually supposed to be a sequel.
That's a sequel.
They introduced it as a sequel to Snow White.
Yeah, Happily Ever After.
Wait, is this Happily Ever After or Happily Never After?
Happily Ever After.
It's Happily Ever After.
Then I'm thinking of something completely different.
You're thinking of the 3D one.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
then.
well,
it's 2D animated. It's really bad.
Yeah,
We'll
go into that another time.
Another day.
But watching it reminds me of that only because it's supposed to be.
That's your kind of Snow White growing up.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all I had. I had it on VHS probably because my mom was like, "This is Snow White."
Yeah.
So I guess we're talking about Snow White.
Yes.
Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Snow White and her.
So Jacob, you chose this movie. Why don't you tell us why you chose this movie specifically? Because you started all this.
Yes.
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah. So everything is my fault. No, I chose this movie because this is a movie I find interesting in the way it's discussed nowadays. I feel like there's a lot of talk about around this movie, what it is, kind of taken for granted, the first feature-length animation. Like, it kind of starts all the princess tropes, but, like, no one ever really goes into, like, what this movie is trying to accomplish, like, how this works on, like, even a narrative level over an animation level, and even just, even, like, the ambition of the animation, which is talked about a little more. But I think this is just due to this being kind of, I don't want to say a tech demo, but just kind of just uh, a animation showcase first, and then we'll kind of figure out the narrative. I think it just leaves an interesting space there.
Yeah, I agree. I think this, like, to me, this is a really interesting film because it's a very transitional piece for not only Walt Disney Studios, but for media as a whole. I think for Disney, as far as that goes, this was a very transitional piece for them because this transitions them into, becoming this, just silly animation studio that makes, entertaining cartoons to ads to this is a movie studio.
Yeah, this is the second big step after Steamboat Willie and Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, like this is this is what defines kind of what direction Walt Disney goes in. And it's funny to think that a lot of people tried to convince Walt Disney not to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, like the amount of and also just the insane amount of effort that goes into this film. And like, I think one of the biggest things that about this film that kind of I have wanted to talk about is just the biggest thing you can see with the transition, like the kind of transition of the studio with this movie, is the transition from drawing cartoons to drawing, full artistic animation.
I think I see what you mean. Like, the thing I'm thinking when you say that is like the human characters, Snow White, the prince, the queen, versus like the very cartoonish dwarves, the very cartoonish animals, just kind of the, I guess, the juxtaposition between those two.
Yes. So, one of the biggest things, one of the biggest challenges with this movie was actually trying to draw the human characters because most animators at Walt Disney Studios at this time were simply cartoonists who drew cartoons for newspapers. None of them were classically trained in artistry or anything like that. And they actually had a few artists come in and try to do figure drawing sessions with the animators throughout the time leading up to making the film. And it's a very interesting thing to see and hear about. And it kind of created this clash in the studio because I think that I mentioned earlier the Goddess of Spring,
Mm-hmm.
which is a silly symphony that they did right before they had released Snow White, and that was honestly that silly symphony honestly almost convinced them. That had almost discouraged the studio from doing Snow White because of the way they had animated Persephone in that
Okay, you mentioned
film.
before we recorded that you almost chose that for the short. I kind of see
Yes.
that now. I was not thinking of the human, but yeah, Persephone in that short looks very much like Snow White in this.
Well, it's the fact that they thought so Persephone in that, the way they animated her was considered a failure at the time. Walt Disney did not like it, and the studio, most animators of the studio thought it was atrocious. And there was just nobody at the studio who could really match up to animating, a figure drawing. Nobody had studied human anatomy before. In the way classical artists do. So it was very difficult for studio animators to try to animate these figures. And I think the one animator they made, or they put on animating most of Snow White throughout this movie, was actually the creator of Betty Boop, Grimm.
Ooh, I see that design.
Yes.
I don't know his name, but I see the similarities when you say Snow White and Betty Boop.
Yeah. He actually animated, believe he animated most of the scenes of Snow White.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in the end, they didn't even, really, I don't want to say they didn't really animate them, but, to the studio's dismay, rotoscoping is used for literally all the human characters.
Yeah, and I think that's
So-
pretty standard. Like when you get to like the 50s, when you get to like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, that becomes pretty standard.
Yeah, well, somewhat. So the studio actually really, most animators at the studio actually really didn't like doing this. They this was pretty much a disdain for them. They did not want to rotoscope characters because they thought it took away from the characterization, capturing their characters well. But because everyone there is cartoonists, they're not thinking in the way of we're trying to make this look like a human figure versus like a cartoonish figure. And you can really see that in the way, I like to cite the witch a lot, because the witch, you can tell, is very much a caricature rather than a figure drawing.
I think, well, you get the transition from like the the queen with kind of the figure proportions like Snow White, the huntsman, the prince, and then that transitions to like a very cartoony character like the dwarves.
Yeah.
I think the most impressive thing about the animation, well, okay, there's a lot of impressive things about the animation. One of the most impressive things, even comparing it to like animation today, is like I think it blends a lot of the stylistic elements very well. Like I'm barely noticing that like Snow White and the dwarves don't even look like the same kind of creature. And then I think like they blend very seamlessly in the background. You get a lot of shorts around this time and even decades further where you'll see like obvious background elements that aren't going to be used in the shot and are going to be used in the shot. And I think the background keeps that level of detail while also kind of blending things in better. But yeah.
Also, I must mention this before we move on because it's irking at me. I think I said the creator of Betty Boop earlier. I meant to say the designer of Betty Boop.
The designer.
Yeah, not the like creator, but the designer.
Okay,
of Betty
fair.
Boop.
Yeah,
So,
I get the difference. But yeah.
Grim Natak, I think is his name. I can't remember his last name. I know his first name is Grim, but I don't remember his last name.
So I think. Sorry, I feel like we're talking. Anne, Etho, do you have any place you
You
want
guys
to
are
go
the
with
main talkers.
I mean, I know with the animation of Snow White, in an effort to kind of make her look more lifelike, some of the female animators actually applied their real makeup to the paintings to give her that blush and lipstick. And kind of that's why, if you look at it, you can see like she's wearing blush and it's very apparent that like that's real looking blush because it is blush that they just put on their paintings.
So, the funny story about that is that they actually had a really, really hard time trying to figure out how to color her face. So they eventually found the right color that could, blend in well in the paintings. And they applied it to every frame with a cotton ball over a pencil.
Yeah. So kind of moving on to because the thing I find interesting about this movie is kind of the structure of it. I see a ton of that Silly Symphony DNA in what this is what this is going for. A lot of because the plot of this movie just not a ton happens. I don't want to stick too much to talking about this, but we got that remake recently. I'm not gonna go into it. It's one of the worst things I've seen in a while. But it's it's the same length as this movie, but it shoves so much plot into it. Where this one is just kind of a hangout movie where you have a long sequence of the doors washing up. You have a long sequence of a dance sequence with all the characters. There's just Sleeping Beauty, not Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. Snow White kind of cleaning the house with all the animals. There's a lot of just we're going to let the animation just speak for itself. And I think I find it kind of refreshing to have something that's not very plot driven at all. That's just kind of, it's almost like a hangout movie of Snow White's not really bothered with the fact that the queen's trying to kill her, so she just comes in, hangs out with these 7 cool dudes, and just that's the entire second act.
It's so funny to me in the movie when she's cleaning the house and she thinks it's all children, and then they come to the bed when she's sleeping and wake her up, and then she's like, "Oh, you're men, you little men." I'm oh.
Yeah, no, that is a good scene.
I
I thought I really liked the dwarves. The classic dwarves: Dahlia, Gabo, Hal, Simon, Bazima, Safi, Dario, all classic characters.
What are you reading from
I am reading that from my notes. I did not remember the 7 characters from which. But no, I think what's smart with the dwarves is we really only focus on like 3. Like Dopey, Doc, and Grumpy get like a lot of characterization, and the other 4 kind of fill out the background.
They're kind of just the normal what you would think their character would be, because they just kind of have one thing that they all do.
Yeah, and like I know like this adds like the distinct characterizations for the dwarves. I think that really helps in like not really fleshing them out, almost the opposite of that, but just kind of having these archetypes where like their deals, so like we don't need to spend a ton of time going into like each of them individually. They kind of work as a group, and you have your favorite, and you know which one is which. And I think it's kind of smart how they're able to kind of make all of them memorable in just 90 minutes.
Yeah. So fun fact, in so like I like to classify Snow White as like it is a silly symphony. Like it's just one really long silly symphony, but it has a lot more theatrics into it. But like as you can see, like most of the movie is just singing and going through songs, which is equivalent to silly symphonies, and that's kind of the original idea they had with this film. Only Walt Disney wanted to incorporate a little more storytelling. And this movie was actually, believe it or not, like supposed to have more content in it. Like they were supposed to do the entire Brothers Grimm story of Snow White, which involves, I don't know if anyone knows, but like it involves more. Like the Queen in the original Brothers Grimm story, the Queen actually uses 3 different attempts to kill Snow White.
That's very Grimm brother.
Yeah. I think like the first 2, one she uses like a corset, which I think was scrapped altogether from the movie, and then she uses a poisoned comb, which doesn't work, and then in the end she uses the poison apple, which does work. Yeah. And originally Walt Disney was just going to do the comb and the apple, but then when the film was reworked entirely, they ended up scrapping that. And just doing the apple for time. And then there's also a lot of deleted scenes to this movie, like scenes that were fully animated but then deleted that were just put in to like add more time to the movie, which is really funny because this is already like there's a lot of
this movie is surprisingly long for what it is.
It is.
I would expect the first like fully hand-drawn animated movie to be like an hour long. It almost clears 90 minutes, which is impressive for what it is.
Yeah, like it's an incredible feature length. And it's to me it's like they just animated like a bunch of silly symphonies like they would have, and then just kind of put them together, but it's in this like cohesive story. And funny enough, this was actually supposed to be more like a silly symphony originally. Like this was supposed to be like almost a pure comedy when Walt Disney first wrote this. And like it was supposed to be like there was supposed to be a lot more wacky action and stuff like that. Like originally the prince was supposed to be captured by the queen, and then he was supposed to escape and fight off these dancing skeletons and things like that.
So basically, what they did later in Sleeping Beauty.
A little bit, like more think of like a silly symphony, like if like in some silly, like how. I don't know how to describe it, but like in a more silly symphony fashion, basically. Not necessarily like in a
like the devil kidnaps Persephone and she like screams kind of olive oil-y and then sends her to hell.
Yeah, kind of.
Hot take: they need to stop making remakes of stuff and do more of the Grimm fairy tales. I feel like they should do that again, and it's like do more movies based on the Grimm fairy tales instead of it being like, let's make a remake of a movie that's already had 2 remakes.
I gotta be honest, I don't think that's a hot take anymore. I think no. I
don't think
anyone wants remakes anymore.
Well, it's not a hot take, but what I mean is just like I think they should do more Grimm fairy tales where it's like they do something that's messed up and then they make it like not messed up, or like they just change it.
I mean, like Snow White, they didn't change like a whole lot about this from what I remember from her fairy tale, but like I could be misremembering too, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Here's an actual hot take. I think the actual fairy tale of Snow White is very boring. I think it would have been forgotten if not for this movie.
Honestly, I think with most of the Grimm fairy tales, I think that's like, you know,
Yeah.
their movies definitely prop them up a lot more because I mean, to be honest, like at least for like, you know, popularity, I think Grimm fairy tales would have remained very very niche in popularity if they, I mean, I'm sure they would be remembered today, but like again, like in a very niche status, like they wouldn't have been so popularized if they weren't remade into movies. Except there's exceptions, but I know this one was inspired entirely by Walt Disney seeing the Snow White as there's a silent film for Snow White that came out in like 1915, I think.
Okay.
And like Walt Disney was inspired by seeing that as a kid, and maybe it came out earlier than that. I can't really remember, but that's just what I remember him being the reasoning for making this movie. There were actually several other proposed movies, including a version of the Odyssey.
Interesting. Okay.
The Odyssey was proposed, and actually the first movie I think that was proposed to be made was Alice in Wonderland, but because
that makes sense for us, like doing something first.
But because Paramount was releasing Alice in Wonderland that during that time, they scrapped the idea altogether.
Yeah,
so.
That's also pretty modern, so I don't know if like Lewis Carroll still had the rights, and that would have been kind of like a pain to deal with.
Well, they knew the studio that had the rights, and they like got I think he tried to get permission to do it, but because Paramount was already making a movie, they just canceled the idea altogether.
Gotcha.
I forget, there was one more they also tried or wanted to adapt. It was Bambi. They were possibly going to adapt Bambi, but then that idea was also scrapped.
Bambi would have been a really interesting first Disney movie.
It would have.
Because that's like even more avant-garde than like what Snow White's doing.
Yeah.
Just having that be the
But I don't know
established.
if that would have connected to people as well as the first movie.
Yeah,
Like, I think having
fair.
human characters was very crucial in connecting. And like
I
people saw a princess and they're like, "Oh, look at this young princess," and they felt driven to want more for her.
Yeah.
I do think you're right. I think, I think the entire just first 5 kind of golden age of Disney, like, it feels very, like, experimental, like, we want to do something that's never been done with the artistry, and I think that comes out in, like, very different ways in the variety of different films, where, like, Snow White kind of wants to be the one of like, can we maintain a silly symphony for like 90 minutes? Fantasia is like, let's put the animation to music. Bambi's like, let's kind of make a almost pseudo like philosophical like nature of nature really. And then Pinocchio is just being Pinocchio.
Yeah.
But
Pinocchio is a weird fucking.
it is a weird movie.
I mean,
It's a
Pinocchio
weird
is
story.
a weird story in general.
If you
I've
watch
never
any
seen
adaptation,
Pinocchio.
there's no normal adaptation of Pinocchio.
No.
There's no. Honestly, the 41
never
is
seen
the
it.
most
I will say-
normal adaptation.
When I was little, I was terrified of Snow White, and as an adult, I didn't remember why until watching it again today.
Yeah.
And I see why young me was so terrified because that's a scary movie.
Was it the forest scene?
The whole thing is creepy.
Yeah, I remember. I wasn't.
The thing with the witch at the end, the forest scene. just-
Yeah,
All of it was weird.
Also,
There
them
was
just
the-
like
I mean,
carrying her sleeping body for like 6 months with them.
Well, even
Yeah.
some of the things with the dwarves, like some of their animations were weird and creepy, and would have
Yeah.
definitely
Well, yeah,
upset me as a young child.
I remember. I think I was scared of like the Snow White ride at Disney World, where you go through like the haunted forest, and then but I don't remember being.
Is there a Snow White ride at
What?
Disney World?
There used to be.
Or is it
It's-
Disneyland?
It might be in Disneyland.
Oh, that
No,
makes
there
more
used
sense.
to be one at Disney World. I don't know when they took it out. It's been gone for a long
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah, but
I know there's a new Snow White ride at Disney World, but
Yes,
It's-
the Seven
That's
Dwarfs
the
Mine
ride
Train is
coaster.
really cute and
Yeah.
fun ride.
But yeah, I do really appreciate like the horror of that haunted forest sequence. I always love scary scenes in like animation and kids movies. separately. I'm not implying animation or kid movies, but I really appreciate I really appreciate that like none of them is like really coming to life. Like it's very much like it's implied that it's in Snow White's head what's going on. With all the trees, like none of them are really moving. Like you kind of see like the image of the tree and like a vague face of a shape, and then Snow White kind of fills in like the eyes there, and like all the branches are like hands.
Personification of paranoia.
Yeah, and then I like how that resolves with like the animals coming up, and she's like, "Oh no, the animals are pretty cool, and like the forest is a nice place." And
yeah, the forest scene is actually one of my favorite scenes in that movie. Now, I didn't like that scene as a kid because I don't know why, but it kind of freaked me out. But now it's like one of my favorite scenes just from the animation in it and from just the characterization of Snow White and the cinematography that goes on in that scene, especially like the moments leading up to it when the huntsman comes to like try to kill her but can't do it and has to like
I think that's a really good like punchy start to the scene. Like that is kind of a creepy moment in and of itself. Of like, it's very like old school like Universal horror. Like the guy is slowly coming with the knife to anticipate, and
it's during this like nice sunset. And it's, you can really get the sense of horror in Snow White's head, because after she's told the queen wants to kill her, then she's got all this adrenaline and paranoia, and you have this whole, action sequence going through the forest that just kind of, builds up real slow.
Yeah. After the adrenaline wears off, she's completely unbothered by it.
She's completely unbothered with the rest of the movie, basically, after that. But, that's a good cinematic sequence.
There's a scene where she just goes to the door and it's like, the queen's trying to kill me, and they're like, is that a problem? And she's like, not really.
Not really. Not really. I'm gonna make soup now.
Yeah, let's make some gooseberry pie, everyone.
Who doesn't make soup to cope with trauma?
You can't eat until you brush your bald head.
Yeah.
She's quite literally just like, I'm in love with this dude that I sang with for like a minute.
Yeah.
And I don't know his name. I don't know who he is, but
does he have a name?
I think he's just called the Prince.
Okay.
He is also Prince Charming.
All right.
He's not the prince. He's Prince Charming, or is he just the prince?
Is he named Prince Charming in the credits?
Later on, they said he is Prince Charming.
Okay, I'm not going on later on Disney. I'm
Well,
going
no, I'm
by
not.
what they
We're going
called
Not even
it in
like
the original.
recently. Like I'm pretty sure Walt said it.
Okay,
And that's why I consider it fair, because I'm pretty sure Walt said it, and if Walt says it, it's real.
I mean, yeah, I guess if it's his creation.
Oh yeah,
so
they gave him a name. It's
Oh,
Florian.
yeah, Florian.
Florian.
I forgot he had
Prince
a name.
Florian?
Prince
Yeah.
You know what?
forgot
Fits.
Sorry, I had to look it up.
Yeah.
He's sometimes called
In-
Prince Charming in other media.
In Snow White's defense,
In summary, the prince
if
is the most accurate
name. The only
name.
person you've been interacting with for some time is your evil stepmother that hates you and makes you wear rags, the cute guy who came and harmonized with you, you would fall in love with him.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like,
He's
in her
just the
defense,
prince.
Yeah.
He came and he harmonized with her and he flirted with her, and that was nice.
That's all you need.
And then he kissed her with no tongue.
Oh, another.
Oh.
He should have done tongue. Okay, would have been better.
Yeah.
Imagine, okay.
So
no.
I have like a really funny optics thing with like the ending and her being in the casket, because the queen mentions like when she's monologuing basically to the audience that's like, okay, I'm gonna do this curse, and that's like, oh, it's a sleeping curse that will be done over with true love's first kiss, and then she's like, but the dwarves will think she's dead, and they'll bury her alive, ha ha ha. And instead, the dwarves are like, I don't know, let's pull a Lennon and just like keep in a glass coffin for everyone to see.
What if they tried to like embalm her?
Yeah, no, if they like buried her, like absolutely, the queen wins in death. But
I mean, she should have won. I don't know why the dwarves didn't. I don't know what happened. What the disconnect
They
was.
just wanted to pull a Lennon.
But they didn't embalm her at all.
They didn't embalm. I don't know. She was in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
She was
I
eternally asleep. She wasn't dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the dwarves didn't know that. They thought she was dead.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
what that's what the point is. Is like
I like held
They
her.
put her in a glass. Like, couldn't she not
For, like,
breathe while she was
months.
sleeping? Well, if she was sleeping, wasn't
Yeah.
she breathing?
Okay, but wasn't she not eating or drinking? You don't last very long.
We can't
without
get
food
into
or
this
water.
I do want to talk about the Queen because I do think the Queen has kind of a compelling arc that if the remake was smart, it could have done something with. Because I think like there's this kind of like anger and pessimism to the Queen. She's always going like, "Who's the fairest of them all?" She's obsessed with that idea, and she's always just angry at everything. She's really angry when like Snow White
The queen
beats her
is
for that.
beefing with a 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, definitely.
She's 12?
I think she's 11 in the original
She's
fairy
12.
tale. She's 12.
I
Okay.
think she's 16 in this version.
No, she's 12.
Yeah.
I'm,
She does
no,
look.
I'm pretty sure
She
she's
looks
16
young
in this-
teenager
Please
in
look it up
this.
because I'm pretty sure she's stated to be like 16 in this version.
But no, but I think, but like what I was saying, like the Queen has like a pretty compelling arc in that, like she becomes like this ugly hag to.
Okay.
14.
So we beg we
We cut in the middle.
we
Yeah.
agree to disagree.
How old's the prince?
I think he's supposed
35.
to be. No, I think he's supposed to be like 16.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not
But-
looking that up. I don't want to be confirmed
Yeah.
or denied.
but like I think it's really compelling that like the Queen makes herself ugly and she's just having the time of her life. Like I think that's a cool idea that it doesn't do a ton with. I'm not mad that it doesn't do a ton with it because of just what the movie
In
is.
Brothers Grimm, she
Alright.
was 7.
Oh, I thought she was. Oh.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
That's
Alright.
worse.
That
Why
is-
are you
that's
beefing
much
with a
worse.
7-year-old dog?
It reminds me of that. I saw a like a comic strip where it's like mirror mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And it's like Snow White, isn't she 11? And then the cops take away the mirror.
Oh.
Well,
My biggest thing with Snow White is the fact that why is she suddenly the fairest of them all?
well. So the
Like,
the
Is
idea.
it because the prince perceived her and now she's fairest?
No,
Don't
it's
perceive
because
me.
she's of age. So she's now like she's old enough to be the fairest of them all. Like so the it's
So the age of consent in this kingdom is 14?
no, it's not. the
Do
age
we
of
have a
consent.
magic
It's
age
not
of
the age of
consent?
consent. No.
We have a
It's more
magic
like the,
age.
I don't know, blossoming flower type deal.
Yeah, in the
Just that-
original
that-
Brothers Grimm, it's a little different, but in this version, it's widely perceived to be like she has come of age, so she's like reached like what was considered womanhood at the time. So she's like, which 14 is around that age, So she's now become a woman, or she's of age to be a woman.
I
so
feel like that's what you meant by that.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's
That's what it
that's
is.
why
Okay.
it is
That makes
like
sense.
that, and that's only in really the movie version.
Yeah.
The Brothers Grimm version is a different perception. It's more just like, it's a matter of like
you
youth.
come of age at 7.
It's not even that. It's like a matter of like jealousy of youthfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it's not Snow White becoming old enough. Maybe it's the Queen being
Becoming
too
too-
old.
that's-
Maybe it's the
It
Queen.
could be that like, they were neck
She's
and
got
neck,
this,
and
like,
the queen got
Porcelain
any
face.
pros
She's
to
like,
it.
I'm
She grew like a single
14
gray
then.
hair, and it's like, ah,
No, she got
Snow
one.
White.
But just
I mean,
one.
that's how it goes in Snow White and the Huntsman.
That's true.
She like looks at her hair. She's like, "That's gray," and then she's like, "Gotta kill my stepdaughter."
Gotta kill Kristen Stewart. I gotta find her.
I gotta kill anyone under the age of like 20.
Wasn't Liam Hemsworth in that movie? Was it Liam Hemsworth?
I thought it was Chris, but I
Is it
have
Chris,
no
the one who plays Thor?
Yeah.
This is off topic.
I don't know. I've never actually watched those movies.
The first one's
Uh,
like,
uh,
no,
I've never-
don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's kind of not good.
I mean, don't watch the second one because that one's worse.
The second one's horrible. Don't watch the second one. The first one is like tolerable.
Let's just
I liked it.
leave these movies alone.
Yeah, they're
Yeah. Like, we
They're
keep
done.
trying to do stuff with Snow White, and it doesn't really work because it's not really a hangout movie like this one.
No. They keep trying to make it different.
I'm going to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, Anne.
Bye, Anne.
Bye.
I think we're almost gonna wrap up soon, but yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
There was something else I want. Oh, one of the other things I'd like to note is that in the original concepts for this movie, Dopey was actually one of the most developed dwarves out of all of them, and he was originally supposed to talk, Like, he was supposed to
Like
have
the
them-
live action movie.
Yuck.
Like the
Gonna move forward and pretend you didn't mention that.
like,
You didn't have to ruin my night like that. But look, like he was supposed to be the most developed character out of all the dwarves, and he was supposed to talk the most too. Like, he was going to have the most lines, but they couldn't find a voice actor for him, like someone that would work. So they suggested the idea of him just being mute, and they just rolled with that. Except for the time he screams going down the stairs. That's the
He had a
only
very
time he's not-
manly scream for that one.
yeah.
He's a man.
True
He
that.
looks like a 12-year-old on a man dwarf's body.
They all kind of look like that,
Yeah.
but with saggy cheeks.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's time for the night where I read off quotes from Grumpy that I wrote down.
I
during my-
will speak of this again as I did when we watched Snow White. Every boomer mom's favorite dwarf is Grumpy. For
I think a lot of people. He
obvious
gets a lot of
reasons.
personality. Anyway, quotes from Grumpy. Ha, woman. Ha. A lot of them start with ha. Where was I? Her wiles are beginning to work, but I'm warning you. You give them an inch, and they'll, in parentheses, woman, walk all over you. Grumpy. Ha! Next thing you know, she'll be tying your beards up in pink ribbons and smelling you up with that stuff called perfume. Spelled perfume in the credits. Ha!
Is it spelled perfume?
In the in the subtitles.
Perfume.
I thought he said parfum, to be honest.
Yeah, he meant perfume, but it pronounced perfume.
Who voices Grumpy?
I don't know. I think he's just his own entity. But anyway, we love Proud Boy Grumpy.
Oh, no. Hold on. No. Oh, no.
I took the wrong Grumpy, guys.
I'm Grumpy.
Oh, no. Did you look up the new one?
Thank you, Ray.
Ew.
I don't even know who that is. I also like how surprisingly violent the dwarves are. They are about to pickaxe both Snow White and the Queen, and then are stopped for a
Okay,
variety
they were
of
about to
reasons.
hit the queen with sticks.
Not pickaxes?
I think they had
No,
sticks.
they just had, like,
Okay.
sticks, I
There you
think.
I'm pretty sure they were sticks. Because I think Walt Disney's probably like, oh, pickaxes are too violent.
But
Pickaxes.
they just did it earlier, and they tried to
Yeah,
kill someone with pickaxes. What do you mean?
Funny,
That would have been more gruesome.
funny thing. Well, maybe it's not funny. Actually, I'm so sorry. It's not funny. But,
Repeats. It's funny. Just kidding, it's not funny.
okay. The voice actor to Grumpy was born in Jacksonville, but not Jackson, but in Jacksonville, Oregon.
Oh, yeah, the other Jacksonville.
And then, he was born on September 11th,
Oh, God.
but it's 1892, so it's fine.
1892.
Cool bug fact. I won't bring Twilight into this, never mind. It's fine.
We'll do a Twilight. We'll bend our animation rules and do a Twilight episode.
No, you
so-
won't.
We'll do a couple, like,
We can
live action.
watch the new animated Twilight series they're coming out with.
They are? Fuck yeah. We can do it on the
We can watch
podcast now.
that. But Renesmee's birthday is on 9/11. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, she chose that. She wrote that into her book.
Okay, fun.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going...
she chose that.
This is an off note, but wasn't she inspired by My Chemical Romance?
Yes!
Who was
9/11.
inspired by 9/11?
Yes!
There we go.
And this whole pipeline with me earlier today in text of how we got Ellen canceled. 9/11 to Ellen
How
canceling
did
pipeline.
Snow White get us talking about 9/11?
You
Because
mentioned
of
him
Grumpy.
being born on 9/11. You mentioned
But
him
why
being
is the
born on
pipeline
9/11.
so consistent? Why do all movies go back to
I don't
9/11? Anyway, we'll move on.
I'm pretty sure Grumpy thinks that
I'm
Bush
pretty
did
over it. I'm
9/11.
sorry I brought in the Twilight. You mentioned
It's okay.
this bug fact.
It's okay. We'll keep going.
We're fine with Twilight, mate.
I'm
Keep going with the
tired.
quotes. Keep going with
Yeah,
the
keep
quotes.
going.
Okay.
Ooh, a Twilight.
The only other one I have is, do just woman again. Yeah, those were the ones I wrote down. I don't know. I joke that Grumpy sucks, but he has personality. You know.
So, his voice actor is actually the voice actor of Goofy in quite a few of the 1930s shorts, as well as Pluto in quite a few of them as well.
Is he like a Frank Welker type who can just do like a good bark, or who can do like a good?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Is he like a Frank Welker, like D. Bradley Baker type who can just do animal noises?
It seems his main character voicings are Goofy and Pluto, but he also does a lot of other like general voicings for Disney animation. Like for instance, he voices Second Victim in Pluto's Judgment Day in 1935.
I hope that's what James Cameron inspired T2 off. T2 Judgment Day is a remake of Pluto's Judgment Day.
Guys, I gotta go home.
Okay. Honestly, if we want to wrap up, I don't have a ton more notes about this one.
You want to go through your notes real quick?
I am going through just some stuff that isn't very interesting or that I've gone over. Yeah, no, I don't have a ton to add about Snow White. It's a very easy movie to like joke upon, but I think it's like we just don't get movies like this structurally that often, and I kind of really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a staple piece from Disney, you know, like, and it's just very pinnacle of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like what was not even like what was necessarily like it's just like, you know, like it's just so interesting to see like the thought process and to think of the thought process that went into, you know, developing this movie and creating what it ended up to be, and it kind of set this standard for Disney there on out.
Yeah, I think my final point is I think there's an interesting comparison between like Snow White and something like Toy Story, which is the first, you know, obviously the first CG animated. In just that, like, with CG, it's something where it's like, it's an impressive starting point, but things like objectively build on it as computers get better. Where this one is just like raw, hand-drawn talent, and this looks better than like anything Disney has done in the past 15 years.
Yeah.
To be fair, this comes with caveat of I don't think their CG looks particularly above par. It's not bad. It's just like maybe it's like slightly above par. It's just not very interesting. I think a lot of like you can kind of see a lot of the love in how hand drawn this is. Also, a lot of hours of animators working, probably a little too much, but you know, their effort shows.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of promotions are made from this movie.
Mm-hmm. They made a specific Oscar for this movie with the big Oscar guy and like 7 little Oscar guys. Sorry, what were you saying?
I'd also like to note this movie was originally estimated to be a $250,000 budget film.
And it ballooned to like $4 million, didn't it?
No, it was like 1.6.
Oh, 1.6.
But Walt Disney actually had to take out a second mortgage on his home in order to fund this movie.
I hope his wife was on board with what was going on.
She was not on board with him making this movie. She actually was one of the people who was trying to convince him not to make this movie, and so was his brother.
Okay.
So, which is crazy. And he actually, a funny thing, he actually pre-screened this movie to the like mortgage loan officer at the bank to try to convince him to give him
Listen, look how cool this is. It's gonna make all the money.
Dude, that's a little crazy.
The loan officer supposedly said, this is gonna make hat loads full of money.
Hat loads.
Hat loads, huh? Wow.
Because hats were popular at the time.
A few dozen $1 billion later, and I bet the banks got their return.
I mean, it's kind of ruined the media industry today.
It's ruined.
My keys are right by the mic. I'm so sorry.
Slap 'em on
Special
the
effects. Be our Foley artist for this.
I'm so sorry.
Alright. You heading out, Etho?
I
think
have to
everyone's-
drive
I
home.
think everyone's getting to sleep.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty,
gotta drive
it's
about
pretty
35
late.
minutes.
I'm off work tomorrow, and I woke up
Oh.
late, so like I'm
I
fine.
work from home tomorrow, so I don't have to drive.
And this is also your house,
This
so
is also my house, so I don't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I gotta drive home.
alright. Bye, Etho.
Bye! Don't
talk
too late!
Yeah.
Is that our thoughts wrapped up?
I think that is our thoughts wrapped up.
Well, now that our other podcasters have left, I guess this is the end of the podcast.
This is the end of the podcast. Oh, yeah.
So we'll figure out a name eventually, but this has been another session with this animated film commentary podcast
/ short film podcast.
/ short film animation podcast in general. Because we'll be doing some other things as well.
It's a variety. I don't think I want to do like full-blown animated TV shows.
That's a little. I mean, unless they're really short.
Unless maybe like a. I mean, I'll do probably like
or like a few episodes.
Maybe like OVA series or something.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it blows up and we just do everything.
You know, we do all like 1,000 episodes of One Piece of one on a single podcast.
We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
I know. Just no.
We'll get to anime at one point. That'll be fun. I think the next one I'm gonna pick after a few rounds is gonna be an anime.
Well, don't spoil the audience.
I
on
won't
it,
spoil
so.
the audience, but I'm thinking of an anime in my head.
Well, I guess this is good night and goodbye. I don't know. This might be like morning when I release
Who
it.
are you? George Clooney in that movie about a famous guy who I can't remember the name of?
Don't know. I don't know, man. Well, now I'm getting.
It is late. Good night, everyone.
What if it's like daytime when they're watching?
Time only exists in this moment right now.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed our useless ramblings.
Yay, rambling. That's why you would listen to podcasts. Don't lie to yourself.
That's true. Yeah. We're funny people sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, this outro's gone on for way too long, so I guess bye.
Bye.